Make no mistake, what Joe Biden said tonight, the state of our union under his failed leadership is anything but strong. Here with reaction, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, I promise not to yell at you during this interview. Let's get first your reaction to the style. Everybody knew that Joe had a very big challenge coming into tonight because, and we'll show tapes throughout the night, of his cognitive decline. Clearly, well, jacked up Joe perhaps overcompensated, and I think that's being charitable. What was your reaction to that?
Look, I think tonight was astonishing. I've never seen anything like it. It was a campaign speech, but it was an exceptionally bad campaign speech. Joe Biden was angry. He was bitter. He was screaming, as you noted, the entire night. He was radical and extreme, and he was completely out of touch with the American people. Frankly, tonight, Joe Biden reminded me like an angry old man standing on his porch screaming to the kids, "Get off my lawn." That's who he was. I've been to 12 State of the Union addresses. I've never seen anything remotely like this. This was entirely focused on the November election. But what's remarkable, Sean, is Joe Biden and the Biden White House, they apparently made the decision, A, they want no Republican votes, because this told every Republican, go jump in a lake. We don't care about anything you believe in. They also decided, amazingly, they want no independent votes. They've decided their strategy for November is go hard left and turn out the radical left. And it was, you know, in State of the Unions, typically, whether you have a Democrat or Republican president who's giving the speech, there are a number of lines there that are designed to reach out to the other party, that get everyone standing. I got to say, this was a State of the Union, and in many ways, half the Republicans almost fell asleep, because after welcoming the president, where we stand and show respect for the office, we basically just sat there for over an hour as he told lie after lie after lie, and he just went hard left. I've never seen anything like this.
But isn't there something behind that, though? If you look at the traditional Democratic base and you butt that up against the recent polling, we see he's losing such a large part of his base: African Americans, Hispanic Americans, young people, even suburban women. To me, it was very telling that the speech had to be geared in a way to sort of to bring back that base. And not reach out to the other side or not try to build his coalition. He needs to reinforce what he's losing.
And look, what was amazing, he almost never smiled the whole speech. He was literally just yelling, and he was pissed. And this was a speech that was delivered to the squad. This was a speech that was trying to bring Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and AOC back on the team. And the rest of America, he just didn't care. Look, inflation. People are hurting with inflation, and what did he tell them? No, you're not. You're wrong. You're just stupid if you think that the cost of rent is higher, that the cost of your mortgage is higher, that the cost of food is higher. You're just too dumb. You don't understand how good the economy really is. Look, people at home, they know the truth on that. When it came to crime, he just flat out created an alternative reality. Crime is down, murders are down, everything is hunky-dory. Listen, the people who are living with crime day to day, they know that's not true. And I got to say, there was no portion of the speech that was more through the looking glass than on immigration. Did Joe Biden acknowledge the 10.4 million illegal aliens he's let into this country? No. Did he acknowledge the open borders he's put in place deliberately? No. Did he acknowledge the thousands of migrants who've died because of his open borders? Not a word. Did he acknowledge the thousands and thousands of children sexually assaulted by human traffickers, the thousands of women brutally assaulted by human traffickers? No. Not a word. Did he acknowledge the over 100,000 people a year dying of drug overdoses? Not a word. And did he have written in the speech even to say the words Laken Riley? He did not. Now, when he got to that point, a member on the floor of the House called out and heckled him, and he responded. He said her name, so I'm going to give him credit for that. But then what did he say? He looked and said, I feel for her parents, they're hurting. And Sean, he didn't take even a speck of responsibility. You know what? Her parents don't want you to emote in their direction and send them a damn Hallmark card. You know what her parents want? They want their daughter back. And what he didn't admit is that Laken Riley is dead because when Joe Biden apprehended the criminal illegal alien who crossed over, instead of deporting him, instead of following the law, Joe Biden let him go. Then he went to New York City. In New York City, he was arrested again for endangering a child, again, because New York City is run by Democrats and is a sanctuary city. They let him go. And if Joe Biden had deported that criminal, or if New York City had put him in jail, Laken Riley would be alive. So he said her name, but he utterly denied his direct responsibility for her death and for deaths all over the country.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.